What is up, Cowboys Nation? Your boy Mike Tag here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this show. Just wanted to touch base a little bit, check you in. Got to, I got the rumors flying, right? It's off season. And before we get rolling, make sure you guys do your boy a favor, man. Make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit the subscribe. We appreciate all the support. We got some great interviews coming up over the next, during the off season, but over the next couple of weeks with Kevin Gogan, Coach Campo. Got a list of some few others we're just trying to lock in, but want to get locked in before I start dropping names. You know how that stuff goes. But definitely going to be a busy off season. It's an all-in off season, so we'll see what happens. That aggravates me every time I hear that because it should be all in every year. I don't know why this year would be any different. But that being said, obviously talked a little bit about Jimmy Johnson, that kind of thing that stirred up yesterday. I gave my thoughts on it. I think, advisory committee, I don't really believe that, but I think Jimmy Johnson may be able to have Jerry Jones' ear. Maybe Jerry's calling him to get some advice, get some thoughts, and that's never a bad thing. Never a bad thing. So probably one of the thoughts he was asking Jimmy Johnson is what do you do at quarterback? I mean, Dak Prescott is, looks like he's about to get paid and could end up being the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And understand this, the way the salary cap works. I mean, we all know this. It's all about timing. Dak will be the highest paid when they get the contract done. And then there's going to be 5 or 6 other quarterbacks right after him, shortly after, that's probably going to get paid too and end up being higher. So what I tell the fans, man, don't get caught up in the numbers. Don't get caught up in that. It's, it's a shell game with money. These guys make these owners and these teams make plenty of money. NFL is making plenty of money. So you never hate a guy for trying to capitalize on his earning income while he's playing. But, you talk about Dak Prescott and the question always is he worth it? Should we move on? And you got to have answers after that. You can try and draft a quarterback. You could try and go, the mid-tier, Baker Mayfield route. But if you part ways with Dak Prescott, better believe next season's going to be pretty tight because you don't really have much salary cap room. So they're really in a spot where they've got to re-sign them. They got to extend them. They got to, clear up some cap space, which is going to allow them to hopefully get some free agents that can come in here and impact it. And that's something obviously we'll be talking about all off season. But, first year under McCarthy's offense, I mean, Dak Prescott led the NFL in touchdowns, which I don't know if a Cowboy's ever done that. If it is, it was probably before my time. Maybe Staubach did it. His interceptions were right back kind of where he was and actually lower than previous years. He was always hovering around 1.8, dropped down to 1.5%, down from 3.8 last year. So that's improved. His yards, per attempt is kind of back up to where he was before after dropping off last year to 7.3. Obviously he was second in MVP, Pro Bowl, All Pro, a lot of honors, Offensive Player of the Year. He finished in the top 5. So they went 12-5. Another year of 12-5. The question is always going to be the lightning rod and the hot topic with Dak Prescott is always going to be playoff success. Can he get this team? Can he lead this team to the promised land? And right now, if we're being honest with ourselves, it's no. And that's where you have the dilemma of, do you move on or do you get more pieces around him to be successful? What they took a big piece away in the running game. Running game was virtually non-existent this season. It had spurts and little, glimmers of getting going, but never really got that dominant running game going. And he needs that. He's not Patrick Mahomes. And then you'll say, well, why are we going to pay him like Patrick Mahomes? Because like I just said, it's all about the timing. It's just the way it works in the NFL. It's not a tiered scale where you're in this price range. You're in the free market. And typically free market, just like if I went to go get a job somewhere else, I'm going to demand a higher pay that I'm getting now. Otherwise, I'm not gonna stay. I'm gonna go somewhere else. So that's kind of the situation that that the NFL and these players are in. So it is what it is. Is it It's tough, man. After that, after the Green Bay game, I was ready to blow everything up. But you just kind of like, you let cooler heads prevail. You kind of dissect, you review, you kind of look at the season as a whole and look what they did. Did a lot of good things. The defense was probably overrated. And in my eyes, I thought they were going to be much better. But when you really look at the games, when the Cowboys offense needed them, almost like what the Chiefs defense did to hold the team until they kind of get things going and make their adjustments and get that offense rolling. They weren't able to do that. It was too late. Buffalo, 49ers, um, the Miami game they couldn't hold them. Obviously the playoff game, the Lions game, you can argue, it could have went either way with the 2-point conversion and this and that. So I'm just saying is the defense did not help. Now Dak Prescott's got to take a lot of the accountability in the playoff game. He put the offense in bad positions with obviously the 2 turnovers and the pick 6 sealed the deal. So, but I think if you get him a running game, you get him, the foundation for success to me is always going to be running the ball. I mean, you've got to run. You can't throw the ball 50, 60 times and expect to be successful every time, especially in the playoffs. Things get tight. And you saw it even with the Chiefs. You saw it with these other, obviously the 49ers can run the ball. The Lions were able to run the ball. So they've got to get help. So getting him an extension is going to free up some money, get CD taken care of. That'll free up money too. It's going to keep pushing things out. And you see the salary cap is rising at a pretty high rate. So it's one of those things you're banking on the future for the salary cap to go up, and you're also banking on win now and worry about the rest later. That's what these teams do. The salary cap to me it's a I don't know, I want to call it BS, but I've seen these teams make all these signings and do this and that. It never hurts the Cowboy. It never hurts the salary cap. So I think it's got to something that's got to be done. I think as Cowboy fans, you're going to have those sides. You're going to have the Dak Prescotts. You're going to that love them. You're going to have the ones that hate them. You're going to have the ones in between. For me, if you're on this team, I'm all in. That's just me. That's just me. If you're gone, good luck. I wish you the best, but I don't. I'm worried about the guys that are on this team. So Dak Prescott's on this team. I'm behind him. What I'd really like to see really more on the field is just more leadership of accountability. Um, and maybe that's just not him. I know he's a very he's very positive and this and that, but sometimes you got to call guys out for what it is. And I don't know. I mean, you get the sounds of the sideline. I don't really see it. I know in the earlier days, obviously with Aikman, you saw it a lot. With some of the other quarterbacks in today's game, you see it. So it's something that I think he's maybe got to work on, or if that's just not his personality, it's just not going to be it. Then you've got to bring in the guys that have that vocal leadership of accountability that is going to push others to be great and to be better. That's what's missing with this team. I've said it a million times. If you follow the channel, is it's accountability, but we need guys with championship experience, mentality. We need some dogs, and primarily going to get them on the defense. That's where the passion, that's where everything feeds off of. So hopefully they'll get some free agents and get, I don't want them to count on the draft, but use the draft to fill in some of the gaps, but use free agency to really address linebacker, really address running back, really address the lines on both sides, whether for depth, more defensive line, probably for a starter, but offensive line, get some more depth. I think the one thing that we found is we got some better depth than we thought with the offensive line when Bass and I believe it's Hoffman, trying to go off my memory, came in the game and filled in for Zach Martin and I think Tyler Smith when they were out. So I think we're getting, we've got that depth on the offensive side. So the offense to me is there. Dak Prescott, maybe obviously they're going to move on from Gallup and they're going to, I wouldn't mind seeing Cooks back. I mean, it'll be curious to see what they do, whether they get a free agent receiver, or do they draft a receiver higher than they want, or that you'd think to get a playmaker. I know the kid from FSU is a name that's popped in there. big receiver. Did some damage to Miami. So, of course, you know, I'm familiar with him. But I wouldn't mind seeing to get some guys from the U on this team, too. Like I've always said, my Hurricanes, when they were on the Cowboys, we won championships. So we got to get back to that. But really with Dak Prescott, love to get your feedback. I know it's polarizing with him, but I think it's the right move. I think it's the right move. Get him signed, get him extended. It's not saying, oh, it's a love fest with Dak. It's being business savvy. If you're going to get a top 10 quarterback, this is what you're going to have to pay. And when those top 10 quarterback contracts come up, they're going to get more. And that's just the way the game works. Now you can go and say, hey, we're going to ride this thing out with Trey Lance and just see what happens. And I'm fine with it. If they go that way and that's the way they want to do it, I'm to the point now where all options are on the table. I think at every position there should be competition, even at quarterback. Put Trey Lance in there, you know, in camp and give him an opportunity to compete. Even if you re-sign Dak, give him an opportunity to compete. I think competition makes players better. I think it always in work and life and sports, everything, competition keeps you on your toes and keeps you going. So wouldn't mind seeing that at a lot of positions, but I think it's a good thing with Dak, and we're going to be talking about it more. We got our live show on Thursday night, potentially still waiting on the green light from Mr. Gogan. He may be on this Thursday. If he's not, next Thursday, we got Coach Dave Campo coming in, talking Mike Zimmer, talking about Cowboys culture. And then we'll probably have Kevin Gogan in after. So it's either going to be this Thursday or 2 weeks from now. We'll get Kevin Gogan on, you know, in the cave, because that's going to be a good one. I mean, he's going to bring it. And you watch some of his highlights, the fights in Philly, the getting thrown out of the Pro Bowl, and just the nastiness that he brought to the game. But I mean, he was an integral part of this Cowboys turnaround in the 90s. I mean, he was one of the few hangovers from the Tom Landry era that went into Dallas, into the Jimmy Johnson era, and survived it, and obviously was part of the Super Bowl championship. You had, you know, the three linemen. You know, people forget it was Tuinei, it was Newton, it was Kevin Gogan. They were on the Cowboys in the, you know, in the 86, 87 time frame. And then they came over. So a lot of people think the Great Wall was started in the 90s. You know, three of the integral pieces were actually in the mid 80s in the Tom Landry era that were drafted and picked up by the Cowboys. So going to get some stories. I'm sure he's already told me no filters. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys hit that like, hit the subscribe. Appreciate all the support to the channel. Had some fun yesterday talking about Jimmy Johnson. Then my man Kelly K9, great minds think alike. He drops a video of Jimmy Johnson literally the same time I did. So check them both out. Gives you two different opinions. We didn't talk about it, so it gives you two different thoughts, or maybe they're the same thoughts. You guys find out for yourselves, but just definitely check out those videos. Appreciate all the support, and I will see you guys live tomorrow night in the cave. We're either going to have a guest or Kelly and I will be kicking it. So appreciate all the support. You guys have a great day.
Give me somebody that's hungry. Give me somebody that's hungry. I need somebody.